Hey guys, what's up? This is kind of a weird video compared to my other one. I have weird sun on my face. Anyways, this is a like different video compared to my other videos because most of my videos are about like me doing something and like trying a product and stuff, and, like showing you guys like the healthy way to do stuff. But lately I've been getting a ton of questions about breastfeeding because I realized we've hit like our 1.5 year mark with breastfeeding Rio, and I haven't learned like everything in the entire world about breastfeeding. Obviously there's like so much information out there and everyone can do it completely differently, but I just kind of want to talk to people because there's a lot of moms out there right now. Well, like a lot of people on my Facebook are pregnant, they're having babies, they've had babies for a while, they're struggling with breastfeeding. So I just like wanted to talk to you guys about my experience and some different like tips that I have. So, because I'm a breastfeeding advocate doesn't mean that I'm like shaming moms that formula feed, because it doesn't matter. However, like if your child is being fed, that's the important part. I definitely think breastfeeding is 110% better for them, and like in any situation you should breastfeed over formula fed. But I'm not shaming formula fed moms. Sometimes it just doesn't work. Sometimes people stop formula, like they start formula feeding their baby before they realize all the good things that breastfeeding can do for them, and that's really okay because like you don't need to have shame. There's no shame, like don't feel bad or anything like that. So like, most of the time it's not like doctors are trying to scare you or anything, but they just want like they're really worried about your child's gaining weight most like at the beginning. So if your child isn't gaining enough weight quickly enough as they think it like quick as they think that they should gain weight, then they're going to tell you to supplement. And like, I'm not a doctor, but I don't think you should do that. I'm like, unless your kid's like not sleeping at night, screaming their head off every time they nurse, like hitting your boobs as hard as they can, that's when you know they're not getting enough milk. And I even went through that for a little while because as you know, babies are going to go through times when they don't nurse as much and when they do nurse more. So sometimes when you go through a time where like they're learning something new, they're not going to nurse as much, and then your supply is going to go down a little bit unless you decide to like set up a time to pump, which I should have done. I didn't always do that, but unless you set up a time to pump, then it's going to go down a little bit, and they might get angry when they latch back on again and they have to like wait for the supply to go back up. But as long as you're patient, it's like it's well worth it. It's well worth it. So pretty much I breastfed. It's like a big deal for me to breastfeed, not because I like knew all the good things about it. I just did it because I'm lazy AF, and I could not imagine going to the store, getting a bottle, making the bottles in the middle of the night, like nothing like that. So I did I started breastfeeding out of pure like laziness. In my opinion, it's much easier to just whip out my boob than to like go do something else like that. So some big things if you are like having trouble getting your supply up and all that. First off, if you're like a new mom, you don't like breastfeeding isn't something you do your entire life. So you need to just like realize like I'm not used to my boobs doing this at all, so I don't even know 100% what breastfeeding should be like, if that makes sense. So you just need to like trust the process, and at first you're not going to have a ton of milk and it's going to come in slowly, and even if you pump, you may not get as much out from the pump because your pump just like squeezes it out. Your baby is like messing with it and hitting it and like getting all the milk out of different places, and your baby is just much better at like extracting the milk than a pump is, because like the baby was made to do that, if that makes sense. So the big thing I think that helped me was I used a Moby wrap. I don't think like you necessarily need a Moby or you need any certain kind of wrap, but you need something where you can put them front facing. Don't make them facing out. Look up hip dysplasia. It's like kind of scary, and I made Rio face out for a long time and I shouldn't have. So have a carrier where you can put them in the front, especially while they're little. Rio's really big now, and so like when he's on the front of me, he like hits his head against my chin, like, so I always put on the back. But when I was first like getting started, I could put him in the wrap and his face would be right by my boob all the time, so he would always want milk, and so I could always like feed him milk on demand, and I could just like put my boob out and we'd be walking down the street and no one would notice until they like went in to talk to him and they're like, oh, he's attached to your boob. So that was weird. Also in the beginning, a lot of moms really want to stop and like quit because it hurts so bad. I was actually in the hospital and Rio latched on, and Caleb, I don't know why we thought it was a good idea to cut his fingernails right in the beginning. So Caleb had fingernail clippers and I thought Caleb missed his fingernail and had attached it to my nipple. That's how bad it hurt. Like I could have punched Rio in his face like 1,000 times. It hurt so bad. But that's just like how it goes, and it sucks, but it's just how it is. So how to make that better. Doctors and nursing people are going to tell you not to do this, and I don't think you should do this in excess, but I pumped. I didn't pump like all day. I didn't pump instead of feeding him or anything like that, but I chose one time each night. So I would nurse Rio to sleep, and then I would go pump at like 8 and 10. You have to make sure it's at the same time and all that kind of stuff, but for some reason pumping really helped alleviate the pain. And then I started like a freezer full of milk for him, so I didn't feel like really sad when I left him. But the thing that can get kind of like messy with pumping is if you don't pump at the same time every day, then you're gonna like get, what's it called, mastitis? It's where your boobs just hurt so bad. And so first off, if you're getting that and you're already pumping 2 and 3 times a day and your baby isn't drinking enough, don't pump more, because supply and demand, like the more demand you have, the more supply you're gonna get. So that's just like a messy situation you can get in. You just need to make sure you're doing it at the same time every day. And if you don't do it at the right time and your baby wants to drink at that time, you have like 2 kinds of milk. You have like the front milk that's like watery, and then you have the hind milk that's like a lot of fat. And so if your baby is just getting the front part of the milk, like the foremilk or whatever it's called, it's not going to get the fat part of the milk, and it's going to get stomach aches because the fat is what moves them and like their business through, and so they can poop. So that part's really important. So when you pump, make sure you're doing it at the same time every day. And the like nursing consultants and everybody is going to tell you not to do this because they know the situation with the hind milk and the fat milk, and for some reason they just don't feel like explaining it to you. I guess they probably talk about it a lot, and so they don't want to tell you that. So just make sure it's at the same time, because that's like really the biggest key. And also it just gives you like such peace of mind whenever you leave, and you don't have to feel bad that your baby isn't drinking your milk and has to formula feed or something like that, because my kid wouldn't even take formula. He like knew that it wasn't my milk, so whenever I went to school he wouldn't eat for very long periods of time, and I felt really horrible about that. But then I started my supply, whatever. Next thing, this one is going to be super controversial, and I'm sorry, like, I might offend a few people, but stop trying to get your husband or your boyfriend involved. You birth a child, you have boobs. Stop trying to pump and give them milk and get them involved. I tried to do it too. I tried to get a bottle for Caleb, and I would try and wake Caleb up in the middle of the night to feed him, and if you're low on supply, then your baby might get used to the bottle. It might not, but just, who gives a crap? If your husband or boyfriend is going to be around for a long period of time, they're going to form a relationship not revolved around boobs. You know, like, honestly, Caleb and Rio this summer have become best friends, and like, it's not a bad thing that he needed my boob the whole time. You just need to kind of like change your mindset, like, I am a mom and I'm providing for this child, and we have things that the boys don't. Like, it's okay that you, like, it's definitely very cute when your husband holds your tiny baby and all this stuff, and they can cuddle and form a relationship a different way, have them read books together, but you have boobs, and it's okay to be the only one that can feed your child. I'm sorry. Finding a support group. It can literally just be on Facebook, but you're gonna get people that are gonna like bash your head in. They're gonna be like, oh, you're nursing at the park with all these little kids who are also probably nursed, or this, or you're doing this and not this, and you're just gonna be like, wait, maybe I shouldn't be doing this, maybe I shouldn't. And then if you have a support group, they're gonna be like, no, girl, you're doing the best you can do, you're awesome, keep it up. And then you're gonna get your confidence back up, and then when people hit you down, it's a little okay because you have these people that are supporting you. So the next thing that I was gonna tell you about, okay, cool, co-sleeping. Also very controversial. People don't want you to co-sleep because of SIDS, and because for some reason they think your kid's never going to get out of your bed. You know, I think when my kid's in kindergarten, he's going to be like, Mom, I want my own bed. Like, you guys are lame. You know what I mean? Like, they're not going to want to sleep with you forever. If my kid is 22 and still sleeping in the same bed as me, then I am a bad parent. But until then, I'm going to sleep with my kid. So co-sleeping is amazing, and you can just roll over, put your boob in their mouth, and then you don't lose sleep, they don't lose sleep. And there's a bunch of studies that have been done where babies that, like, right when they wake up, their parents are right there. First of all, they might just look at you and realize, oh, I'm safe, and try and fall back asleep. Sometimes they don't. Rio has days where sometimes he'll wake up 5 times in the middle of the night, put my boob in his mouth every single time. Other days, I can see him wake up, he rolls over and, like, hits me to touch me, and then he falls back asleep. So, but babies that are raised have the parent around right away. Know that it makes them more independent and and they know that you're there, so they feel comfortable going farther away from you, if that makes sense. So they know you're always going to be there, so they're like, okay, I can go out and do this thing, and I can go and be independent, because I always know that my mom or my dad is going to be there for me. So the next, that's a big thing, but I don't think, so when you breastfeed, you kind of have this intuition, sixth sense with your baby, you know when they roll over and when they sneeze and all this stuff. And that's not so much with formula-fed babies. I don't know why, but I know there's a bunch of reasons that when you breastfeed, you just are more aware of your child because you're connected to them, you're feeding them. I don't know, it's weird, and it sounds not real, but it is. So look into that. I wish I had some studies on hand. I guess I should have done that. The next thing is feed on demand when possible. I know some people work and all that kind of fun stuff, but sometimes your child just wants your boob for comfort, especially if you're low on supply. You should always just, whenever they reach for your boob, feed them. That's another situation where they know you're always going to be there to comfort them. So they are going to probably wean sooner, and they're probably going to be 100% more independent because they're going to feel comfortable running around knowing that if they need you, you're always going to be there for them. That is so important. In my opinion, we don't need to be raising great babies. I'm okay if my baby cries. He doesn't know everything. He just got into this world less than 2 years ago. He is seeing some things for the very first time. It's okay if they cry. We don't need to raise perfect little angel babies. We're trying to raise good adults, at least in my situation. That's how I feel. Also, no bottles when you're around if your supply is going down or anything like that. I know everyone likes to, pump and then let someone else feed your child, but they can just hold your child, and that's a wonderful way for them to bond, look at each other, read books together. It can not confuse your baby, but nipple confusion. My son didn't really have nipple confusion, but even giving him the option to have nipple confusion kind of made me nervous. So if you're low on supply, don't use a pacifier. I never got extremely low on supply, but when I did, I would not use a pacifier. I don't know, in general, if you're feeding on demand, it doesn't make sense to use a pacifier. It's okay if your kid uses your boob as a pacifier because, it wants comfort from you. If you I just can't think of a reason you wouldn't want to comfort your child. So, in my opinion, that's super important. Another thing is just to have on hand, because every once in a while you are definitely going to get nervous that you're low on supply. Another thing, so fenugreek, I don't think it's very expensive. It's probably less than $10, and it's something that just not activates. It makes you sweat more. It makes your sweat glands, and your boobs are like sweat glands. It makes all your glands just more pour. I don't know. It makes them release more. So it's weird because once you understand, once you start feeling your let down in your boobs, and then if you take fenugreek, you'll start feeling let down in your armpit, and you're like, oh my god, I'm sweating. It's weird. I don't know, but I can feel it now. So fenugreek is always just something nice to have on hand. So if you feel like you're really low on your supply, you can just take one of them 3 times a day for a few days, and then you'll be okay, and it's okay for your baby. Another thing just to think about is the fact that everything that you eat is literally coming straight out of your boobs into your baby's mouth. So a good thing, if your kid's staying up late at night or can't sleep, check your caffeine intake. If your kid's having gas problems, check that intake. And if you're not someone that had drank coffee at all in the past, and then you even drank an ounce, even if you drink a little, your child could be affected by it just because their body isn't even used to it at all either, so people say you can do 8 ounces or whatever. So that's all. Those are just some ideas and stuff. And if you're a breastfeeding mom, please comment below in case there are other moms that are looking to form a group of support, because I don't know, I think it's really important that we have each other to lift each other up. Another tip I read somewhere was if you're someone that's uncomfortable breastfeeding in public, look at yourself in the mirror when you breastfeed to see how you look. And you're probably going to see, how much you want to cover up, this and that, just to feel confident when you go out and do all that. If you guys have any breastfeeding questions or comments or things that really worked for you, I would love to do a follow-up video about this, maybe next week or something, because this is really something that I'm hearing a lot about lately, and it's super important, in my opinion, to talk about it and get it all out in the open. Yeah, so that's all. I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.